learnt about who I am in relationships through this. It was a creative activity that I did in an art therapy session in 2016. There it is. There's the image. And I want to tell you the story of it because it was eye-opening. Yeah, there's the picture. Just scroll through and I'll just turn sideways and I won't move too much, otherwise I think you might end up feeling seasick. So, at that time, I was feeling absolutely lost. I had no idea who I was at all. I also had no idea who I was in relation to other people. I was following and taking my lead from everyone else, and so I was like a chameleon. I was changing constantly. So the therapist I was seeing, Rosie, at the time, she got this piece of paper. She said, "You have one half, I'll have another." And she said, "Copy me." So she started to draw a line and I copied. I mimicked it. I drew the line too on the other side. And then she turned left. So I drew left and then she went up and I drew up and then she turned right and I followed and turned right. She gradually picked up speed and the turns and twists gradually became more complicated and I was able to keep up for quite a long time. Eventually she said, "Okay, let's start. Right, here's some pastels, pens, all those kind of things. We're just going to start to add a bit of detail to this, a bit of colour to this." So we did. We started adding things. I stayed very much in my half and I coloured in the little shapes and I didn't really go out the lines. Rosie, however, her energy was entirely different. She was really free. She was really expressive. Her lines were sort of wandering around. She was smudging and scribbling and doing all sorts of stuff. And I wasn't. I was being very neat and very precise. She then said, "Okay, let's wander about, go wherever you want on the paper." So I did. I just mainly stayed in my side still, in my little box. But Rosie started to move across the paper. I drew something and suddenly she drew over my thing that I'd drawn. And I drew some circles and she added lines and I coloured in and she drew over it. And I didn't question her. I didn't stop her. I didn't do anything. And then because we were using pastels, eventually the dust built up and she blew the dust and it went straight at me, all over me. And again, I didn't say anything. I stayed silent. I didn't question it. So we carried on. We did more of this, backwards and forwards. I did not draw over Rosie's stuff, but she continued to draw over mine. Eventually, when it was all filled in a bit more, we stopped and we talked about it. And she said this was not so much about the image that we were making, because I'd been really sort of puzzling over what images to put on. Ooh, shall I draw a circle? Ooh, shall I do a line? Lots of anxiety about that kind of thing. She said it's about the interaction between us. What did you notice? And when I stopped and I saw this other element of this, that it wasn't just doing a picture, it was an experience of drawing something with Rosie. When I stopped and reflected on the experience, I realised how passive I'd been. She'd drawn over my things and I hadn't said anything. She'd blown dust on me and I hadn't said anything. I'd been really focused on sticking to my little space and I hadn't interacted with her. I hadn't gone and met her. I hadn't drawn round her things. We hadn't made anything together. She'd kept trying to come to me and draw with me and I wasn't joining in. And also it had felt more like an invasion, but I hadn't challenged it. I learned a lot about who I was with other people in that moment. And then that meant I could see stuff to work on. Without doing this, without being able to make these dynamics in my relationships into something real, I would not have been able to do the work that I've done since to change how I am in relationships. I'm recording this and now it's years later and my behaviour and experience of relationships has changed massively, and I think that this action, creative action for learning, for visualising, for making things real really, really helped me. It really stands out as something that was very powerful. I think I had to do this in a space with someone who knew exactly how far to push the boundaries without it being unsafe. without it becoming traumatic or distressing, because I did that with Rosie, a therapist. It was really safe, and she knew when to stop, and she knew when I would have seen what was needed to be seen. And what I saw was who I was with others. It gave me such a lot of material to work with, and it was really important. And I wanted to show you this because often I find this. I don't know what I don't know. I can't see what I can't see. So drawing or finding a way to make something I am experiencing real, to make an abstract feeling real, to make an abstract experience real, that really, really helps me to then process and understand who I am and where my growing needs to happen. Anyway, I just wondered if you could relate. If you had any thoughts about this. Anyway, let me know if you do. Okay, hope you're okay and that you're doing well, and take care, everybody. Bye for now.